So we are live. Welcome.
Live.
Welcome from a different venue.
A different venue, an unincorporated venue.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Yes. Welcome from. Do they know the city we live in?
I don't think so. We know they live in the Chicago area.
They don't think so. God, should we tell them the city that we live in?
Who the fuck cares? Anyone who listens to us knows us.
Millions of fans. Welcome from the greater Aurora, Illinois area.
Yeah.
Unincorporated Aurora, Illinois.
So
today.
what benefits do you get as unincorporated?
No city taxes.
Ah.
And
shitty water, right?
the well, yes, but I don't think I should technically qualify for a library card. But when I went to the library to get a card, I asked if I could get one for being unincorporated. And one library in the system let me, and the other one didn't. So I have a library card that I am not funding with my own tax. I'm taking advantage of the taxpayer.
You are the people who the Trump supporters hate.
I am a welfare queen.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow. Anyway, we are here today to discuss episode 4 of our podcast. We're covering season 4.
Season 4
of How I Met Your Mother, which, if we look at our rankings, you put very high up on your list.
It is a banger of a season.
I put it in my bottom half.
Hi.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
I think we say this every week.
Yes.
Not a bad season.
Not a bad season. Season 4 opens with banger episodes. As I was reviewing it for this recording, I was like, hit.
There's a few that I think are hits.
Yeah.
There's a few that I'm like, I'll watch it because I love the show, but if I was doing a speed run, I would probably skip some of these.
All right. Fair enough.
So season 4 opens, which we didn't discuss this last week.
No.
Season 3 ends with Ted
proposing to
having
Stella.
his first proposal of the series.
Correct.
He proposes to Stella.
Yes.
The awful, horrible Stella Zinman.
The awful, horrible Stella Zinman. Awful, horrible, just my least favorite.
Yes.
My least favorite. Yeah.
She treats our boy Ted wrong.
She does do our boy Ted wrong, but you know what? He learns to move on and forgive in this season.
I have thoughts on that.
All right.
I have thoughts on that, which we'll talk about later when we go through the characters, right?
Yeah.
But we do start the season with some very fun episodes, like you mentioned. I like the first episode where he kind of acknowledges that he doesn't know a lot about her.
Yes.
Which is true, because we also don't see Stella a lot.
We kind of see her a lot in work and in New Jersey.
Yes.
Yes.
But she is never, unlike, and this might be a little controversial, unlike Victoria, I don't feel like we ever get a sense that she could belong with this group.
Correct.
So like Victoria, we see her hanging out with the crew.
Yes.
Right? They have game night.
Exactly.
They have the episode where they go shopping for dresses with Lily and Robin.
Robin.
But
exactly.
Stella, she is only ever around Ted.
Yes. And is it officially stated that Stella is older? Or does she just like kind of look kind of older?
I think she does play a little older.
Yeah.
Maybe not a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, to be an established doctor, I feel like
you would have to be
automatically ages you up a little bit.
You would have to be a little older than your early than your early 30s. I'm looking to make sure because I'm getting So I don't think Stella would pass the front porch test. If I were to administer the front porch test to this group, I would not put Stella on that front porch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I would put Victoria on the front porch. I would not put Stella on the front porch.
Yeah.
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 I feel like Victoria, like they would hang out with her, they'd be like, she's such a Ted.
Right.
But
she's on the porch.
She's on the porch.
She's on the porch.
Yeah.
So we start with the entry from that cliffhanger ending, which great for me watching this show for the first time when these seasons were already out. I didn't have to deal with that shit.
Yeah.
That's my least favorite trope. I know why it has to happen, but I hate it when TV shows do that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, out of all the seasons, I think this is the season 3, the ending of season 3, beginning of season 4, is the one where the cliffhanger feels the most off-putting.
Yes.
Because I feel like every other season ends pretty well.
Resolved. Starting with season 6, once again, we get that frame, right, of the wedding, of the mystery wedding that we learn more and more about as time goes on. But yes, this is the most jarring.
Yeah.
Which is also interesting because Stella's wrapped up
within 5 episodes.
But
makes a comeback.
Yes, a long period of grief for a little bit, then going about life, then some random, then a random occurrence for resolution for Ted, and then the season ends with the leap.
It's also funny to think about. We mentioned already, Stella comes back at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there going, I know Stella comes back, but that's next season, right?
Right.
But it's not.
Right? It's this season.
It's this season. So I was like, it's kind of funny that they brought her back within a year of leaving Ted at the altar.
I kind of like it because I also... I really enjoy just contrasting this season finales to next season's finales. And maybe this means that Attorneys General, this season's finale with last season's finale, I enjoy contrasting with each other. And maybe this means that we'll just have to start off with Ted in our character arc conversation. Mm-hmm. But whereas Ted ended last season with the proposal, and then we're left for the cliffhanger, he ends this season with getting the professorship, right, of architecture. He ends this season taking the leap. Which, in my retracting of the contrast, I'll also say is just a very, very on the nose, very, very, very on the nose metaphor. That is cheesy and kind of works. So, broken-hearted Ted finds some healing Ted, mm-hmm. and then taking the leap Ted is where we end up here.
Yeah, so we can talk about some of the other characters while we're at it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of development for Robin. This is where we see Robin kind of like down in the dumps. Mm-hmm. She takes a job in Japan after we get the banger episode, mm-hmm. Shelter Island and the intervention, right? So there's a stretch of episodes starting with I Heart New Jersey where she gets the job offer in she quits her job, right? In I Heart New Jersey, she quits her job, kind of figuring herself out as well.
Right.
This season is where we're also introduced to Ted and Robin's pact.
Correct.
Which I had kind of forgotten about.
The before 40, right?
The before 40 pact.
Yeah, or the after 40. I always forget about it until I see it.
And I had almost forgotten, like I saw it and I remembered, and then it also like hit me right away that this pact was really bad for Ted.
Yeah.
And they acknowledge it in later seasons.
Yes. And this is kind of the beginning of their on again, off again. Or I think they were very much off earlier on, like season 3, if anything. They're fighting. Barney enters the picture, so like Ted and Robin are definitely like off. But the pact, and then Robin soon moving back into the apartment, is kind of, I think, what led to general audiences starting to get annoyed with the show.
A little bit.
And that ties in well to the fact that, like, this 40-year thing is bad for Ted. But you know what? Sometimes people don't know how to make the divorce final. So
yeah, it's
while it is frustrating, true to life.
And I can't remember when that gets resolved, but I'm pretty sure Ted is the one who ends it.
I think it'll be clarified for us as we go through the rest of the season.
Yes. As of right now, with me having not finished everything, I want to say Ted is the one who's like, we can't have this. Like, I'm too caught up on the possibility of you to be able to fully move on from you.
Well, so here's what's interesting. So like let's pick a focal point real quick that's tangential to this conversation. So do we want to focus on Ted or do we want to focus on Robin?
Let's do Robin.
Let's do Robin. So gets the job in Japan. Seems to be a short-lived thing.
She's there for like a week.
There's this episode early on, intervention, I believe, is where this happens, where they're packing up the apartment. And then it ends with, first of all, a penultimate scene where they say that every year we're going to come back and we're going to, next year we're going to come back, we're going to order some really expensive scotch, and then every year we're just going to remember our friendship here. And it's kind of odd, and I'm trying to remember taking myself back to watching this for the first time, because the show does kind of almost make you believe that it's going to break up this group of friends' routine for at least the foreseeable future.
In the episode itself.
Yes. Right? But then, in the episode itself, after that penultimate scene, it does flash forward 1 year. They're drinking the expensive scotch. And then the last line is like, do you want to take this party upstairs?
Yeah, like you go back to the apartment.
Exactly. So I can, briefly touching on the show in general, but then coming back to Robin, I can see how this would have been the beginning of the viewer's frustration, because there's, I think, one legitimate critique you can make about the show is that it almost sort of toys with the idea that change is a coming, or we're going to move along in the timeline, right? And then you ultimately kind of return to reverting to the status quo. And this is the first big moment for me, at least, when I noticed that. However, I would say that that's more A, true to life than people tend to think, but then also B, that's just the reality of working in TV.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of unknown what resources you're going to have available for you.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to leave plot threads open.
Of course.
But then when it comes to Robin, I always remember thinking that Japan was just such a random career opportunity for her. I was prepared that they would have done that as a technique to sort of get her out of the show for a little bit, kind of how they do with Lily later, when Allison Hannigan is actually pregnant. And she's not speaking to Barney, and therefore she doesn't have to be present with pregnant belly. But Robbins comes out of this cool moment where she quits her job at Metro News 1. Right? She's ready for bigger and better things. Bigger and better things are not coming. And then she reverts back. She realizes what a shit show it is, and then she's like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm out. And then Japan is her next move opportunity. So good for her for taking that leap, right? And maybe that's the theme of this season, is sort of taking chances, taking leaps, etc., etc.
And a lot of characters have that, I feel like, this season.
Yeah.
Is that good for Robin, at least for now? Well, I mean, she'll be coming back.
She will be coming back. I will say the one thing about her, and this is what kind of frustrates me about Stella and Victoria and other characters later, and I get their points from this perspective, but by other people, Robin is also treated as the girl that's holding Ted back, right? And I think this is part of why Stella does not pass the porch test to me, is that she is insistent that Robin not be invited to the wedding. And I get the whole thing. I'm the one who says make the divorce final, but I do think it's like kind of bullshit that like you are literally sitting with these people regularly, at bar time, and you're like, nope, you dated this girl who we're probably gonna hang out with next week. She is like not allowed at our wedding.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, that's harsh.
Yeah. And it's also like it's different, right? That situation with Stella and Tony.
Yeah.
Because like she makes it seem like her and Tony are not really on good terms.
Correct.
Right? So like her not having Tony there makes sense to me.
Yes.
Also, like if you are the ex-husband,
why do you want to be there?
You don't want to be there.
Yeah. Why do you want to be there?
Where I feel like Ted and Robin, like they dated for less than a year.
They dated for less than a year. She had a thing with Barney. They're legitimate, like
they're
legitimate friends.
Just friends.
Yes, and it's not just Ted is friends with her and she's not friends with any of his friends. She
is part of the core group.
The group. Yeah.
So that did seem a little weird to me. Last thing I guess that I want to touch on with Robin is this is also the episode where we do see that she is feeling like she lost confidence. Robin has always struck me, especially from season 1 to 3 and this rewatch.
As confident.
She is a very confident, sure of herself
character.
Yeah. The whole trope of a strong, independent woman who don't need no man.
Yeah.
Right? But for the first time, this is where we start to see her insecurities, I feel.
Yeah.
The episode where she's hanging out with the Woo girls.
Yep.
Where she's like, I just want to be with a group of girls who don't have their shit together.
Great episode, by the way.
So
really quickly, I mean, I'm gonna make you stand for this season. So
I stand for every season.
Episode 1, the Star Wars episode. Episode 2, Best Burger in New York. We talked about that last time.
Yeah.
I Heart New J, which is gonna come up for me later in our scumbag tier list. Not this episode, but a future one.
Okay.
Intervention.
Intervention's a fucking classic episode.
Shelter Island. Right. Wedding, happily ever after.
Not a Father's Day.
Right. Not a Father's Day. Woo Girls.
The Naked Man.
The Fight. Little Minnesota. I mean, this
is
11 straight.
There are a
banger, not Bob episodes. Banger episodes. Yeah. But anyway. Yes. Back to more serious topics. Robin's self-esteem.
So like we see her grow a lot from that.
Yes.
She goes down, but then she slowly starts to get more confident. She learns to rely on her friends. I mean, the episode where she relies on Barney to help her with the video resume.
Yes.
She is willing to go out and ask for help, where I feel like in past Robin probably wouldn't have. She would have swallowed her pride.
Well, on Shelter Island, right, when she returns back from Japan, and Ted's like, hey, Stella said no, and they kind of have a fight, right? She goes to Barney's room, right?
Yeah?
Yeah. She needs someone to rely on, and that's who she picks.
Yeah.
So it's ironic now that I think about it, but also kind of cool. While you have this pressure that's trying to like force Robin out of the group in terms of Stella and her insecurity about Ted and Robin, she just becomes more inculcated into the group.
Yeah.
Which I enjoy.
And speaking of that, this is the season where, like we talked about the other day, where her and Marshall finally get some time to hang out.
Yeah.
And actually, I had gotten the order of these episodes backwards. So we start with Little Minnesota,
right,
which you just mentioned, with Marshall taking Robin to his bar.
Correct.
Which, by the way, what a dumb way to run your bar. And you're like, hey, you're from somewhere else? Nah, I don't want your money.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, money's money, man. $20 is $20.
I think this is something that you and I just don't really, we might be aware of it, but we don't necessarily appreciate it as much as it exists. There are bars in big cities that very much are about the culture.
Sure, but I don't feel like they're gonna like kick you out.
Turn away money.
Yeah, you may not feel as welcome, but they're not gonna like throw you out the door. It's comedic effect, sure.
Comedic effect for sure, but I would not be surprised if there are a good handful of bars that exist that won't like kick you out the door, but will insist like, hey, this bar is kind of for like these people.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
So, one of the things that I love about that episode is the continuous joke of like everything from Minnesota being like ridiculously big.
Yeah.
Like he's like, hey, who ordered the mini burgers?
Yeah.
Just, like 4 or 5 just massive fucking burgers.
I enjoy I think, is that the one that introduces Canadians Are Afraid of the Dark?
That is the one that introduces Canadians Are Afraid of the Dark.
I always thought, here's what I thought was most unbelievable about that episode was that the Minnesotans were so hostile to the Canadians. But I'm like, if there's a state in the lower 48 that you may as well give to Canada, it's fucking Minnesota.
Yeah.
Hockey, snow, dumb accents.
Dumb
accents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
And the episode the episode never really makes a reference to that irony, that they're so similar to each other.
They do.
Do they?
They do. This was me kind of connecting dots, right? My thinking of why the Minnesotans dislike the Canadians is because of the guy who missed the kick. Because, do you remember his name?
Gary Anderson.
Gary Anderson misses the kick.
Yeah. And
he retires in shame from the Vikings.
Yeah.
And he goes to Canada to open a fly fishing business. And I think that's where that stems from.
Well, a dislike for Canada, but never a like, we are 2 peas in a pod.
Yeah.
Right. Which would make sense for why Robin and Marshall might be drawn to hang out with each other. Besides just being part of the group, is they have a fairly common background.
Yes. But that does introduce us to one of my most like wholesome moments is like the Hoser hut.
Yeah.
Because like, he does feel bad for ousting her as
right,
like outing her as a Canadian.
Yeah.
And she says, she's like, I've never had a reason to stick. I've always had a reason to stick around.
Right.
Again, going back to her being at her lowest.
Exactly.
And he does take her to the Hoser hut where she knocks into someone. He apologizes to her and gives her a donut on the hose.
Yeah.
And then Marshall turns off the lights. And it's funny. I think I've always wondered if he does it on purpose.
No.
But I think he does.
I always thought it was an accident.
I would love for it to be on purpose.
I think it's ironic that Robin is the one who feels out of place, but I would say is the New Yorkiest of the gang.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, tough, poised. The Canada stuff, like, never comes out of her until it's explicitly referenced. Like, I forget when they officially revealed that Robin was Canadian, like, in the show's history.
Very early on.
They see in season 1.
Oh, definitely season 1.
Yeah, but until that moment, I would have never guessed. Right?
I would say it's very early in season 1
yeah.
where they mention that she's Canadian. But this is also the episode where, in the intervention, when they talk about, the security deposit.
Yeah.
That's where they talk about, like, the different injuries to the apartment.
Yeah.
And this is where we get drunk Canadian Robin.
Canadian Robin.
Which is... what does she say? She's like, "You're nuttier than Tim Hortons maple log."
Something like that.
And then she
does call him like a hoser.
She calls Lily a hoser.
Yeah.
She says, "Step off, hoser. I'll give you summer teeth."
Yeah.
Summer here.
Lily's turned on.
No. She's the one who's arguing with her.
Right.
But they get into a girl fight.
Yes.
Ted breaks it up. Barney gets mad and he punches a hole in the wall.
Right.
Yes.
But I think there's a little cutaway of Lily being turned on by the moment.
I don't remember,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I would, Lily is an enigma.
Lily is an enigma, and the feature of today's episode, by the way.
The feature of today's episode.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and talk about. Do we want to treat Marshall and Lily as one?
Why not?
I feel like that's pretty fair.
Baby arc is what starts.
Baby arc starts here.
And Allison Hannigan, if I remember correctly, is pregnant this season. Actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both of them are pregnant in this season.
Oh, that I did not know.
Yes. Because the purses start getting bigger and bigger.
Yes.
And I know in the episodes where Ted is running his business from his house,
right,
you see Kobe Smulders wearing like big baggy clothing.
Oh.
And like she's like hiding the baby bump.
So clever.
Very clever.
So clever.
But yes, so they start to kind of toy with the idea of having kids.
And this conflict here really starts on the Not a Father's Day episode.
Yes.
Where I was watching that episode recently. And I find Allison Hannigan very attractive. Especially in these seasons. And I also think, like, she's like cute, pretty, right? She's like, oh, like you would say she's cute.
I don't know, are you going to be telling me that you're simping for Drunk Lily?
I'm not simping for Drunk Lily, but it's a lot of confused emotions because I hate baby fetishes. I hate people who have baby fetishes.
Fair.
But I also love Allison Hannigan. I was like, oh no.
Oh, Thano's a baby fetishist.
No. But they decide, but rewind, because this is at GNB, where in the Best Burger in New York episode, it is revealed.
Yes.
That this is where Marshall has gotten his job.
His job.
And the theme of the show persists. That is different from How I Met Your Father. It is okay to sell out.
But okay, it's not so much about selling out. It's about just doing something with yourself in the meantime, right?
And it makes the argument that selling out is not necessarily permanent.
Yes.
Right.
So just like Robin is for the remainder of this season, or for a good chunk of this season, Marshall was at that point last season without a job, kind of just like messing around, putting tape on his face because he was that bored.
Right.
And then in episode 2 of this season, he's kind of like, I just need something.
Yes.
Like he's got a house that he's paying for.
Yep. He's not putting on pants.
Like he is depressed and he needs something to.
You have that beautiful montage of him slowly getting worse and more frustrated with.
Yes. Yeah. And he is on the hunt for his burger, which is where we are introduced to Goliath National Bank.
I think what's beautiful about this season, and Robin's arc reminded me of this as well, and obviously Marshall's does too. This season is a lot of we are too smart to be this poor energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he, like you said, I mean, I selling out is like the mean way to say it. I think the more accurate way to say it is the way you worded it, that it's the season's advocating for, like, you can't just hold out for the dream. You have to find something to do in the meantime.
Yes.
But all too often, I feel like to people that feels like selling out, right?
Yeah.
But despite the fact that he works for the evil corporate overlords, it's a fun environment. He gets to hang with Barney. They get the conference calls, right? So you have this mixture of like doing something that's keeping you occupied in the meantime, but also like hanging out with your buds, which I like how that dovetails into like Marshall and Lily, toying with the idea of having the baby, but still like realizing they're not ready for it yet.
Yeah, and Marshall kind of, is the one who kind of talks some sense. I don't want to say talks sense into her, because I think she's also not quite there yet.
Not quite there yet. You have the beautiful show don't tell of Drunk Lily, where she's basically compared to a baby throughout the entire, right? So that is what kind of shows.
Oh, you mean Thano's kink?
Well, no.
Thanos' new kink?
No,
yes.
Because I was about to say, actually, the one thing I hate more than baby fetishes and baby fetishists
are babies.
No, I enjoy babies. Enjoy babies. The person who, if you're in your early 20s, you know this person. There is one that I just know as an acquaintance, but I remember this is the type I have in my head. It's the person who gets like married early, has kids early, and then it's like, I see all these people my age having keg stands and living the party life, and here I am being a father or a mother, and I just can't believe how these people go along with their lives and blah 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 blah.
Call them wet towels.
Wet towels, and that, my friends and millions of listeners, is the worst type of person in the world.
These are the type of people who make their entire personality I am apparent.
But it comes early, and then they judge the shit out of you for having the party boy personality. Yeah. And to you, I say, fuck you. And that is it.
That is it.
Because I don't want to hang out with you.
So we get that from both of them.
Yeah.
And then we also start to see that they do start to kind of feel like they are getting older. They are almost 30. I think they are 30 at this point. Yeah. Or Lily turns 30 soon. They might be 29. But this is where we start to kind of see them want to be more mature, act more adult, despite their urges to still want to have fun. Myrtle is on this, which I am kind of embarrassed that we didn't think of Myrtalist when we were talking about like memorable moments. Because the Myrtalist, as soon as it came up, I was like, how is this something that I forgot about?
Yeah.
But like Lily and Marshall want to be more mature, right? They have these silly little rituals that they do, and if you've been in a relationship for long enough, like you have silly little things that you probably just do between you and your
friends.
You and your significant. Well, even then, even like just between you and your significant other. Yeah. Because some things are just a little too cringe to even want to do with your friends.
Yeah.
Listen, Katie and I have been together for 15 years.
Yeah.
There's some things that I do with her that I'm like, I'm not gonna say any of this shit along with other friends.
So Ro and I, and dear listener, it is not a sexual thing.
No, but none of these were.
But we do a lot of like cutesy talk to each other, to the point where sometimes when we are out with other people, my girlfriend will talk like a sophisticated human being.
Oh,
and I forget that is actually her default, and our cutesy talk is an innovation in her life. We're learning a lot about me today. Well, so here's the thing. I just got the notification earlier this morning that they're shipped, but I ordered those 2 expensive lightsabers, right? Upstairs, I have a cabinet just full of Star Wars action figures that have mostly been purchased after I graduated college. Dare I say, all purchased after I graduated college. Uh-huh. You got me that anime, wildly accentuated Anjuwoman poster.
You mean anatomically correct? Anatomically
correct Anjuwoman poster, right? And that I think this is a way that this show could actually be really interesting in terms of analyzing the millennial. Because I think we are notorious for growing up a little slower than our predecessors.
Probably.
But not as dumb.
Not as dumb.
Not as dumb as the generation that came before us. And this episode at least tries to sort of grip with that. By that point, like the millennial stereotypes hadn't been so ubiquitous, where it wasn't on the nose. But it is. But it's interesting. I think this core group, and I don't know if they technically are because of their age, because I always get confused as to where Gen X ends and millennial begins. But they could, their shenanigans.
They might be. They're
either like late Gen Xers or
late Gen Xers, early
millennials,
probably. So to that that point that you were making, one thing that I think is kind of shown by this group is that, like, while yes, you do have to grow up, like, it's also okay
to revert
and to like still have fun. So Marshall and Lily, this happens in 3 Days of Snow.
Yeah.
Like, they have these like silly little rituals that they do with each other.
Yeah.
And they're trying to put a stop to them. They tell each other like what they ate for lunch every day.
Yeah.
Marshall goes and picks her up from the airport.
Yeah.
She brings him a 6-pack of beer from wherever she went.
Yeah.
And they're trying to put a stop to it. And then during this episode, they realized, like,
oh, the other person's gonna,
like, the other person might still do this,
yes.
and then I feel like an ass for not doing it.
Yeah.
And, you know, to what degree that might be true. Like, I'm sure if she didn't bring him a 6-pack, Marshall would have been fine. Yeah. He would not have held it against her if they had agreed that he wasn't going to pick her up. She wouldn't have been upset.
Yeah.
But it's also the idea that, like, it's fine to still have these things.
It is fine to still have these things. I don't think they would be outwardly upset, but it is kind of the thing where, you and your wife tell each other no gifts for whatever holiday.
Oh, that's bullshit. I tell my wife I want gifts
Not
every time.
You and your wife, the royal you and your wife, tell each other no gifts, or your husband. Your spouse. Tell each other no gifts for like a holiday, and then you're like, but if I don't get it and they do, then I'll feel bad. And I think there is it is worth celebrating some of those childish reversions, right? Because they're
fun.
They're innocent and fun. This is the spice of life. Adulthood in its purest form sucks.
Yeah.
Right.
You need to have fun.
You do need to have fun.
Anything else about Lily and Marshall? I know we talked about Lily a little bit more in our list today. I know this is one of the biggest Lily issues in the episode The Front Porch.
Yeah.
So
I think that's it. I think that's all we need to say.
Yeah. Barney, we finally meet his mom.
Yes.
This is the episode where we meet Loretta.
Loretta Stinson.
One of my favorite like recurring characters. I don't think she made the list. I think we chose Marshall's mom over Loretta. But there's something really funny about this woman who is like self-appointedly like, or was like a big hoe in her youth. And she's like, yeah, like that's how I was.
So this show was the first time I was acquainted to this actress.
She's in a lot of stuff.
She is in a lot of stuff. And I'm trying to look up her name, but as I look up her name, continue.
Frances something.
Yeah.
So, funny enough, she was in a season of...
Frances Conroy.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was in a season of American Horror Story where she plays a maid.
A maid.
And the men see her as like really hot.
Yes.
Like young, really, really hot.
Right.
And then like everybody else sees her as she truly is.
Correct.
Like
old.
What Frances Conroy?
Yeah.
Looks like, right? And I don't know. She's fun.
She is fun.
Very fun. She shows up more later on.
Yes.
She comes back at least 3 to 4 times. But this is one of those episodes that I don't love.
Which episode specifically?
The Stinsons.
And This is where Barney hires the actors to play
The
his
actors.
family. Yes.
I hate the kid actor,
Uh-huh.
which I don't know if you're supposed to. I know, like, they say, like, oh, he's, he sucks.
Tyler no likey.
Tyler no likey. Well, Javier no likey Tyler. But it's also a factor of, like, me not liking kid actors for the most part.
I see.
And this kid just does not do it for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't.
That's what you find annoying about the episode.
It's just like, of all the things to like waste an episode on.
I think so. There's I like to call them sitcom purists, who I feel like, especially many 2000 sitcoms, as the show progresses, things will get like slightly more ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll stretch suspension of disbelief like a little more. For The Office, for our millions of fans who are watching, this is portrayed in how Jim's pranks get more elaborate, but also the character of Kevin gets more like comically stupid.
Yeah,
as the show goes on. I think this episode very much stretches suspension of disbelief.
Yes,
quite a bit.
Quite a lot.
I don't mind it just because I think it also like kind of expands the mythos of Barney. Like you've met his doubting mom. Who it's interesting because in the flashbacks that we've seen her, like in the Bob Barker episode, like if anything, she just kind of played off as like neglectful.
Yes.
Right? Like, you only see, like, from the legs down, I believe it's implied that she's smoking.
Yes.
Right? And he's like, who's your dad? And she's like, oh, I don't know. That guy. Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to see the little character change in terms of how she is very, like, motherly. And it kind of shows how that inconsistency in his life helped contribute to that instability.
Yeah.
That he has, but I will say that, like, yes, I think this show starts to push the boundaries of what is possible, or this episode tries to push the boundaries of what is possible in the show.
Yeah. So not a lot changes with Barney.
No,
he stays pretty similar. I mean, we further explore his feelings for Robin, which had been going on since last season.
Right.
We get the episode Mosby as a Signs, where he is upset that Robin is shacking up with PJ.
Right.
We get the episode where Ted and Robin are banging.
We get that episode. We do get Barney's 200th.
His 200. That is the season, isn't it?
Exactly.
What episode is that?
That is called Right Place, Right Time.
Yes, that's the episode that I'm on. That I was watching yesterday night before I turned it off. His 200th.
Does that episode help? I haven't reached it in my catch up yet. But does that episode help catalyze the Barney Robin relationship? Because, like we said earlier today, we begin season 5 with them secretly dating.
Yes.
And then it's confirmed that they're dating, by the very beginning of that season. Does the 200th conquest itself, from your recollection, help sort of solidify that he wants a relationship?
I think he's talking to someone at the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Right, he's talking to that mad kid who like was bullying him about like banging 100 chicks in 4th grade.
Right.
And that's what Barney sets his whole life's goal at.
Yeah.
And he kind of tells him like, hey, like there's more to this. And then Barney kind of like realizes like, well, now that goal is done, like,
what's the more?
What's next?
Right.
And I think he like glances at Robin as she's walking into the bar or something.
Yeah.
Other than that, like there's really not a lot of of change here until the very last episode, which is where Barney and Robin do finally kind of like get together.
Yes.
Right, in the leap.
Right. She learns about his secret feelings for her.
Yes.
Per Wikipedia.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff in there that you're kind of like, Robin like confesses to him, and like in an attempt to like scare her off. Doesn't she like tell him like, hey, I think I'm having feelings for you?
Yes.
And he's like, oh yeah,
right.
His fear of commitment starts to show.
Exactly. But like you said, she's trying to push him. She's trying to push him away.
Yeah. Because who is it? Isn't it Marshall and Lily who tell her to try the Mosby?
Yeah. I think I'm in love with you.
Yeah, I think I'm in love with you. And they both kind of play with each other back and forth.
Yeah. I'm cribbing from Wikipedia here because my memory is hazy. So meanwhile, Barney has decided to confess his feelings to Robin, but before he can say anything, she says that she loves him. He quickly reacts by saying that they should just be friends and picks up a random girl at the party. Lily then tells him that Robin overheard his suit analogy with Ted and was worried about what to do. After discussing it with Lily and Marshall, who reveal they had known for months, Robin decides to Mosby Barney, telling him that she loves him right away, just like Ted did. Barney discovers the truth, gets disappointed, confronts Robin at the hospital. She admits to Mosbying him, and then tries to do it again until the two confess their complicated feelings for each other and kiss. After this, they decide to discuss it later.
Yeah.
So very messy. And not in a bad way, but very
for these two characters, I feel like it's appropriately messy.
Lots of external conflict and lots of internal conflict.
Yes. I love the payoff of the goat.
Yes.
I don't think this is the episode that has my favorite quote, where he's like, where Lily's like petting the goat. She's like, but she's so pretty and cute and furry and soft. But this is the episode where Ted gets the shit beat out of him by the goat.
Yeah.
So I think we can pivot to Ted.
Yeah.
Now that we've talked about everybody else.
So another line from Wikipedia, you realize that Ted has had a year.
Ted has had a fucking year.
So left at the altar, knocked out by a crazed bartender.
Yeah.
Fired and attacked by a goat.
Yes.
Right? All in one season.
So the episode where Ted gets fired.
Yeah.
From
he has to design. He didn't design his own firing room.
He has to design the firing room. He then Teds it up.
Yeah.
Ted's gonna Ted
the tranquility pool.
The tranquility pool. The hallway of rebirth or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And Bilson fires him, which then we get the fun. Like, before that, we get the fun video, like, camera, like, CCTV camera footage of them firing people and them being upset, and then Bilson gets hit in the back.
And then we get it of Ted.
And then we get it with Ted hitting him in the back with a chair.
Yeah.
So, very, very important for Ted. We're going to pause for a second.
Yes.
All right, so back to Ted. So you said he's had a year, and he has.
He's had a year. He's had some moments as well, some positive moments. He got to work the Naked Man.
Yes, the Naked Man. We mentioned the Naked Man. Mm-hmm. We do not get a big thing on the Naked Man. Now, this is the season. We've known for a long time that Ted loves Star Wars.
Yes.
But this is the season that solidifies Ted as like a diehard Star Wars fan.
Which was interesting to me. I'm very interested in IP and how intellectual property laws work. And for example, if you watch a show like The Fairly Odd Parents, that's the first one that comes to mind. They will have like a Star Wars parody, but it'll always be like their brand of the characters. That's a cartoon, it's a kind of different genre. But it was interesting. It was interesting for me to see like, oh, they're naming this movie, they're naming the characters. Barney has the clone trooper in his apartment, which does it go from stormtrooper to clone trooper, or clone trooper to stormtrooper? Because it does change.
Dude?
It does change.
I don't like Star Wars enough to know that distinction.
Well, regardless, and it wasn't until I was watching this on Hulu that I was like, oh, was this show always owned by 20th Century Fox?
Yes.
Even though it appeared on CBS.
Yes.
Which eventually Viacom and Paramount.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that has anything to do with their ability to like if the show was owned by NBC, like would they be able to even do the Star Wars episode? I don't know, because like I don't know what you can and like can't do in terms of name dropping intellectual property.
I think as far as name dropping, there's nothing against it. They technically don't show anything from the show or from the movies.
Right.
You get some sound clips.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it's enough to warrant like any sort of trademark or copyright infringement. And as far as showing the stormtrooper,
right,
I don't think that's as big of an issue.
And yet I still feel like if it was on another network and Star Wars was the movie, I still feel like the TV show would have had to do the clear parody that's not Star Wars, but wink wink nudge nudge. We all know it's Star Wars.
Here we go.
Yeah.
20th Century Fox was the original distributor of the first 6 Star Wars films.
Correct, it was.
So,
but was it also the original? But did it also own How I Met Your Mother?
They did.
Right? So they were parent companies.
Yeah. So that is also why it helps.
Javi thought I didn't know that 20th Century Fox did distribute the Lucasfilms.
You were kind of like who owned?
Yeah.
You're like I don't know who owned.
I meant how does the law work in terms of how to show the IP. Anyway, we find out Ted loves Star Wars.
And little by little, you kind of start to see Ted also, start to be affected by like the bumps on the road.
Yeah.
Again, in the Woo Girl episode, he is dancing around, saying my love life and my work life are disappointing.
Yeah.
He wants to get into that fight. Not so much as Barney does.
Yeah.
But he definitely kind of talks up the game when it happens. And then that all kind of starts to boil over when he is reunited with Karen.
Right.
Who
is awful.
I fucking can't stand her.
Yes. And
it's not just a Karen thing, it's an actress thing.
Yes. Is she a Scientologist?
I have no idea, but you know what?
I heard, and I like Donna from that 70s show.
Her name is like Laura Prepon.
Yeah. She's a piece of shit in Orange is the New Black, obviously.
She's to be fair, that whole fucking character, or that whole show.
Piper's a piece of shit too. But like, there was something controversial with her. Whether she was defending Hyde from that 70s show and his sexual assault allegations, I don't remember. But something happened with the actress, I feel like.
She was a Scientologist.
She was a Scientologist. Mm-hmm. There you go. Listener, be aware, the tier of worst people in the world is baby fetish. People in their 20s who have kids and then judge other people who are living life in their 20s. Mm-hmm. And then Scientologists. Those are the worst types of people in the world.
Interesting.
And we abuse a lot of rights in this country. Why can't we abuse the rights of the Scientologists?
We should.
That's all I'm saying.
We should.
Anyway.
So we are then told that Ted finds out. Well, we are shown Ted finds out that Lily has taken it upon herself to sabotage many of his relationships.
Correct.
Including
Karen. And Stella.
No, not Stella.
Not Stella.
Robin.
Yes.
Robin. Yeah. She did not touch Victoria. She did not touch Stella. Mm-hmm. Anyone who she felt like Ted could potentially end with. Yeah. She sabotaged.
I had confused it with Stella for a minute because I got intervention in my head. Which, as a brief aside, the way that they reveal I enjoy the way they reveal they had the intervention ready for Ted. And when Barney arrives,
he just has the
and he has it ready.
He just always has it ready. He's like, wait, you just carry that around. He's like, Ted, please.
But yes, they reveal that Lily messes up his relationships while Robin is having the craziest day on TV.
Yes, the delivering a baby, the weatherman having a heart attack.
Yeah.
Somebody catching her on fire.
Yeah.
I think at one point, a magician.
Yeah.
Which before we wrap up our thoughts on the season and we move on to the tier list, not in this episode, but the next episode after this is the old King Clancy.
Right.
We get one of those instances where like we're told a bit of information.
Yeah.
And then we are shown that the information is not right.
Right.
With her being the one to want an old King Clancy. It fucking kills me.
Yeah.
But this is where we get that front porch. Which, as a way to gauge a relationship.
I use that test.
I think it's good.
I do use that test.
I don't think that I've ever used it.
Yeah.
But I can see the merits of it.
Yes. I think so. This is interesting. I think they're currently there's not a trend, and I think people in our age to necessarily want to keep in contact with a lot of the people that you grew up with, right? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people our age are very comfortable with picking up, moving on, and starting somewhere anew.
Sometimes, yeah.
Where in the test purist form, maybe that could be impractical because it kind of implies that you're establishing roots with a group of people and you want to settle down in those roots. But I like the idea of establishing roots, so I actually really like the front porch test.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also something that not everybody can use.
Right.
I think you need to see yourself with a group of very specific people to even attempt this test.
Yes.
I wouldn't use this with just about anyone.
Correct.
Right. But if it's with super close friends, I think that's why it makes sense. Why else would why else would Marshall and Lily use this test, or why would Lily specifically see them? But Ted does end up, like you mentioned, having a change in career path.
Mm-hmm.
For the best, I would say.
For the best, and I think I'll make two comments that are related. Like I said last episode, I think some people kind of lump this arc of seasons as being the static Ted seasons, where you do have Zoe after Stella, but I mean that's kind of it in terms of the big recurring ones up until the mother arrives.
But again, that I feel like that all has to come from that 40-year pact.
That 40-year pact, and the fact that I think people unrightly measure progress in the show by Ted's relationship status.
Yes.
Right? And to be fair, that's the title of the show, right? It's implied that's the focal point. But I think when you have seen the whole show and then you come back and rewatch, this is what makes me appreciate the finale for this show so much, because Ted's professorship very much is a detour from the trajectory that he wants and sees for himself. Mm-hmm. But it's still progress, and it's a detour that still gets him eventually to where he wants to be, right?
So I don't know how architecture works a lot necessarily. Yeah. And we will probably touch more on this later as we do get him designing his own
building
skyscraper in New York City. I feel like being a lead architect in a project and being a professor work very well.
Yes.
I feel like if you're just designing the building, like you are the one who designs it.
Yeah.
Like you are not the one building it.
Right.
Right. Like you have contractors who come in and make sure that everything on the inside is stable. You have the construction workers who do it. Like you might oversee things.
Right.
So I feel like him having that job would not have prevented him.
Not prevented, but so let's rewind. So here's one thing the show also gets inaccurate and is also very much a product of 2000s times. We like to think that getting an architecture job designing a skyscraper is very difficult.
Sure.
And it very much is. But right now, so is finding full-time professorships. So back then, it's kind of seen as like the show. I always read the show as kind of not necessarily presenting it as a stepping stone, but like an alternative. And it kind of comes from that mentality of like, oh, those who can't do, teach. Those who can't teach gym.
Yeah.
Right. Like like Ted never wanted to be a professor, but he's like, all right, it's a job. I get to talk about it. And he finds out that as he's going through it, he finds out he's A, very good at it, and B likes it. Now this is next season, right?
Yes.
But in the theme of leaps and changes and sort of keeping yourself occupied, it does show that like detours are still progress.
Yeah, and everybody except for Barney, I feel like, had a leap this season.
And it's interesting. We'll talk about this when we get to season 9. But when you look at the finale of the show, what we see of him and the relationship with the mother is not like the vision that Ted set out for himself, right?
Very different. Very untraditional.
Both kids are born before
they make the joke of living in sin.
Yeah, exactly. So right, like I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but like the show does kind of sort of celebrate the fact that like things do not always go the way you plan on them going. But that's okay, and it's still okay to have your plans, right? Because like you can still design that skyscraper, you can still meet the one, even if it doesn't turn out the way that you expected it to go.
Exactly.
So I love this season finale with Ted, especially compared to the last one. That does have him doing the romantic gesture. Like, granted, it's at an arcade, right? It's no blue French horn.
Mm-hmm.
But I like him finding actual progress for himself rather than just sort of like settling.
And I think we talked about this before. There's never really a season where things feel super static.
No.
Like, maybe things don't drastically change.
Right.
But there's movement.
There's movements. Sometimes that movement feels cyclical, right? We talked about on again, off again for Ted and Robin.
Mm-hmm.
I think season 5 is definitely where Barney takes the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
And you could argue that Ted is kind of pushed to the back a little bit.
Yes.
But there's definitely still movement. You just gotta watch for it.
Yeah.
Anything else we need to say about Ted?
I think it's time to move on to our list.
Have we met Ted? We have. So
met
today's list is a topic of much discussion from a lot of straight white males who also probably really hate The Last Jedi.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, that's a good point.
Yes.
That is a good point.
My theory, Republicans hate The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Liberals tend to like The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And I would say that very New Age conservative-ish men would also be the ones who would tend to get hung up on this topic. So thank you for letting me temporarily hijack the show on a political rant.
Go for it.
But
this is technically your brainchild.
This is my brainchild. But what is our list for today, young Javier?
Oh boy! All right. All right. Let's preface this.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Preface this.
Yeah.
Everybody loves almost every character.
Yes.
In this show.
But there is one that people tend to hate.
If you were to ask who's
the worst?
The worst of the crew.
Yes. people say.
Incorrectly, I would say.
For sure.
People will most likely say Lily.
Yes.
And now I think we've discussed this together.
Yeah.
Yes, Lily does have her flaws.
Yeah.
But I mean, so does everybody else.
Right.
Right? But people get caught up on Lily. So today we are looking at our top Lily is a scumbag moment, just to play into the joke.
Yeah.
And honestly, I struggled with this.
And here's the thing. So when we were planning the show, we were coming up with list ideas, and I picked this one because I thought it would be easy.
It's not.
And there are some common ones, which honestly, some of them find their way onto my list. But I have caveats for all of them, or I have qualifiers for all of them, I suppose, not caveats. But there's it's almost a circle jerk of people hating Lily. Do you mind if I read a Reddit post real quick?
Go for it.
All right. So the Reddit post is from a year ago from You Deleted. It is called "I Fucking Hate Lily Aldrin."
From a year ago.
So
recent.
But it's got all the cliches.
All right.
So hi. I discovered this gem of a show during quarantine. I know I'm about 6 years too late. Did not punctuate the apostrophe in and just started watching the show about 2 weeks back. I'm currently in season 5. I love all the characters. And there's one character whom I fucking hate. ... Lily Aldrin, period. See, the thing is, before season 5, I actually liked her. But during season 5, I started disliking her to the core. I started to realize how self-centered and fucking ignorant she is. She's always somehow, one way or another, rude to Marshall, parentheses, a very loving husband. She tries to jeopardize Ted's career by stealing from his boss, caps lock, question mark. She uses, and now everything else is all in caps. Kindergarten fucking logic with adults. She ran away to San Francisco 3 months before her marriage to Marshall because she wanted to pursue a career in arts, parentheses, only to realize she's abysmal at drawing. She jeopardized her and Marshall's future by recklessly spending and buying clothes. When Marshall wants to sell the clothes, she compares it to him wanting to make her wear a garbage bag, question mark. She broke up Ted and his girlfriends because, boldface, she doesn't approve of them till season 5, and now we're back to not caps. She's such a bad person. I just hope by the end of the series she has some redeeming qualities. And here, this person's probably younger than us.
Probably.
I was young and maybe young, dumb, and this stupid too. But it screams, this post to me screams angry white male.
Oh, for sure.
On Reddit.
Oh, for sure.
And these are the core critiques, right? I can't, I'm sorry, I'm kind of cynical. To be honest, I can't imagine this person came up with these by themselves because there have been posts upon posts with these.
Every single one of those. And honestly, it's funny enough, pretty much all of those are the ones that are on my list, and that's because I was, grasping at straws because I could not come up with anything else.
I have a little bit of different ones. But even those, I don't unentirely empathize. I don't distangle myself from Lily. I don't distangle all my empathy from Lily for all of those. As scummy as some of them can be, to be honest with you, they're not outside of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Of how people act. And with I don't want to say good reason, because yes, there's no good reason to have credit card debt. But people like their lifestyles. People buy stupid shit. Where I bought my lightsabers.
And it's not on my list because as someone who was young and not with a super awesome paying job, credit card debt piles up.
Yeah.
Whether you mean to or not.
Yeah.
I wasn't spending money on clothing.
Right.
But paying bills and paying for groceries, that should roll that up.
Well, I think we have to realize you and me buying toys, right, is kind of the equivalent of girls buying fancy clothes. And I don't mean that in a demeaning way. You like your fun stuff.
I mean, homie,
happy,
I know Katie will never listen to this, so I can say this openly without fear of repercussion.
Right.
I spent $180 on a figure.
Yeah.
At a Comic-Con like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, should I have paid $180 for this? And I look at my figure and I go, yeah, it's kind of worth it.
I spent $300 on, not recently, a while ago, on a Star Wars set of like Mandalorian action figures that were pre-Disney. So none of them are like canon now. I don't even know their names, but they're really cool. But you couldn't find them fucking anywhere.
Yeah.
And so, you know.
Sometimes you gotta treat yourself.
Sometimes you gotta treat
All right,
yourself.
so let's go with the list.
Yes.
Do you want to start or want me to start on this one?
I'll start just as long as you're okay with me adding my buts and howevers at the end of many of these.
I feel like that's gonna be for both of us.
All right,
go for it.
So,
So Thano's list.
Number 5.
Are these in order from worst to, or from least worst to worst?
Least worst to worst.
Wonderful.
All right, number 5. Controversial. This is where I sound like a piece of shit.
All right.
Lily getting mad at Marshall for taking the judgeship without telling her first. Now, but actually, yes, he should have told her first.
Yes.
Yes, you should be open with your spouse. I will say, as I remember how this was presented in the show, it was presented in like a you need to decide on this now thing. And they were supposed to go to Italy together, and Italy was supposed to kind of be this like life-changing thing. In my biases, when you look at career and pleasure and how they come into conflict, I tend to skew more towards like career. And I would say like judgeships are hard to get. Like it's very prestigious. You don't know if the judgeship will always be there. I'm sorry, but like Italy will always be there. He effectively got, you know, even though he wasn't elected to judge here, right? This was effectively like, you know, his inroad into elected office. And I feel like that's something that like, all right, you know, dream for Italy has to wait. But he should have told her. So, you know, least on my list. Number 4, similar. Lily moving to San Fran.
Oh.
Yes. Which was on a lot of people's list.
Interesting.
Broke up their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Look, I think there are. So I'll use my girlfriend Rose as an example. She works at a new job. Her boss is not pleasant. And she kind of regrets like leaving her old job. And like what I tell her is like, look, I get it. Like, you know, you realize the grass wasn't necessarily greener. But like if you had not left that old job, which was static, right? You weren't going anywhere in that old job.
Mm-hmm.
You would have always wondered like, what if?
Yeah, what else is out there?
Right. So, yes, I think breaking off an engagement is emotionally traumatizing. But if she didn't take that opportunity, would she have been okay? Would then the Italy thing have blown up, you know, more than it actually did, right? So
I have thoughts on that, but I'll save those for my list.
Number 3 is credit card debt.
Okay.
Pay your bills. Number 2. Lily giving the "you're dead to me" look to Mr. Park.
Oh, that one's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now she learns that Mr. Park died, right? So she quickly learns the lesson about it.
But, all of that over.
Yeah, but she just
over coffee.
Decaf coffee, ladies and gentlemen, non-binary folks. Decaf coffee is indeed for bitches. And don't use the heart problem excuse to me because that just means you're a bitch. I'm sorry. So, woman, like, I'm not a New Yorker, but like, your bodega coffee is also not that great. Yeah. So, unnecessary. Poor Mr. Park. And number 1, having Scooter on the hook. And I don't even feel bad. I don't even feel bad for Scooter, but my mantra is make the divorce final.
Yeah, you can't keep them on the hook.
There were 2 short-term relationships that I had where I knew that they were going nowhere, and then I ended things in both of them, and the women were a bit distraught. It didn't come out of nowhere because it was at the beginning of us like having friction, and like I was looking at that friction. And I'm like, is this probably going to get better? No. Do I actually see myself with this person? No. And then I broke up with them, and they're like, "Why? I don't understand." And I'm like, I just don't think I didn't say you're not the one. And to be honest, I can't remember what I did say. So I could have sounded like an asshole. I will very much say that could be within the realm of possibility. But I effectively said, without saying these exact words, "You're just not the one."
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sorry, but like...
It's not effable.
It's not... the divorce just always has to be final. So,
yeah.
Yeah, that is, get Scooter off the hook. Come on, Lily. Come on.
Don't leave a chance if you don't really feel like there might be a chance.
Exactly. Now, note what was not on this list, breaking up the relationships, because I would say that stronger men and women than me might see a relationship that needs breaking up, and they would do it. And I would say you did the right thing. I was too chicken to do so.
Funny enough, it's also not on my list.
Good.
My number 5 is she is really annoying about her birthday.
Yeah, but it's funny.
It's funny. Like I said, like for me, I'm honestly grasping at straws.
Yeah.
Like all of these might sound dumb because I don't think they're that bad.
Yeah.
So that one's on my number 5.
Yeah.
My number 4 is, dude, she fucking like assaulted Jenkins. Like so that's in the next season.
Yeah.
Marshall has a new coworker named Jenkins.
She's hot.
She's very hot, but again,
we didn't
they use this trope of everybody thinking that Jenkins is a man.
Yes.
Because you're working in the corporate world,
right.
Very man leading, and you get the impression that Jenkins is a guy.
Exactly.
And she does too, and Marshall doesn't correct her.
Yes.
And eventually Jenkins gets drunk.
Yep.
And kisses Marshall. Yeah. It's not like she does it on purpose. She's blacked out drunk.
Right. And she realizes.
And she realizes that she apologizes to Marshall. She apologizes to Lily.
Exactly.
But then Lily just wails on her.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, poor Jenkins. And we never see Jenkins again. So
that is an element of the show's problematic takes on relationships and the consequences of expressing sexuality.
Yes. My number 3, I did put Aldrin Justice, not because it's Aldrin Justice, but because she is truly jeopardizing Ted's.
She's jeopardizing Ted.
Career.
But it's weird when people bring it up. They in their tone, they almost defend Bryan Cranston's character.
Yeah, no, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, he sucks.
He sucks.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that this is
right.
Ted is trying to help her,
and
she puts this crosshair on him.
Yeah.
So that I was like, all right.
Yeah. Right, that's a bit far.
If you're gonna fuck with someone, don't fuck with someone who's helping you.
Right.
So that's the only reason why I have her on this.
Yeah.
Number 2, and this is kind of this is where it's not quite the San Francisco thing. But in the episode where Lily stole Christmas,
The Grinch.
The Grinch.
Yeah.
Ted mentions
right.
she didn't, even
in passing on the phone
or anything.
He's to Marshall, he's you need to get over this bitch. But right, this is what.
Yes. And she's like, why are you so mad at me? Whatever. She's like, you left everyone.
Yeah.
And Marshall and Lily have been together as long as Ted has known Lily.
Yeah.
So that is a friendship that, like, I understand Ted being hurt by this too.
I don't blame Ted for calling her a bitch.
I don't.
I could see someone getting mad because I think it hurts to hear yourself getting called that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think where this definitely deserves a spot on the top 5 is that, like, you know, this group would have no qualms calling, you know, anyone a bitch, right?
Yeah.
And, like,
I mean, this is the episode where we get the infamous "I called slut."
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite lines.
Exactly. So I'm also a big believer that if you're gonna dish it, you gotta
go take it. Yeah.
And she did not take it.
She did not take it.
Yeah.
And my last one is pregnant Lily is kind of a bitch to Robin. In that I'm like, Robin has always been a good friend to Lily, I feel.
Right.
I don't think there's ever been a time where Robin has been mean to Lily.
Yeah.
Except for drunk Robin. But pregnant Lily is kind of a bummer.
What does she do again?
She's kind of like edging her out, like not you know, taking into consideration. Like, I mean, they have the episode where they're trying to race to see Maury.
Yes.
And it's that whole season where they're trying to get pregnant, and you know, she's kind of just like not super chill about everything.
It's interesting because it's kind of a cool parallel arc to the Woo Girls episode.
Yeah.
Where you just see that they're simultaneously at a point where they have, like, different needs in life, but they're still at the point where they're still best friends. So yes, I could see it as a bitch moment. I would also counter and then still say that, like, being pregnant fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And there's you do have different needs at that point, and, like, you know, sometimes, as sad as it is to say, sometimes it's just hard to fit your friends into your life when you got other needs going on. So I get it.
Yeah.
I will note, though, to both of our lists, I think why it was kind of hard to me to come up with the moments is that despite these moments existing, I think there are multiple times in the show where Lily is seen as being supportive to every other character in the group. I don't know if you could say that about everybody. Like, maybe there's isolated moments, but, like, I think Lily for sure will have at least 3 moments where she's supportive to Ted, Barney, Robin, and then of course Marshall.
So this is gonna sound really weird. Ted is the dad of the group.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Yeah. Lily's the mom of the group.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, being the mom of the group often leads to, like, people shitting on you.
Yeah.
Like, someone's gotta be the voice of reason sometimes.
And you imposing trauma on the group. Note every generational trauma movie of the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our list.
That's our
list.
What an episode.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about in this season.
There's a lot.
I don't feel like there's a lot to talk about in some of the other seasons, but this season is pretty stacked.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap it up there. We will be back with season 5. Season 5, while not as big, I feel. I could be wrong. I mean, we could start talking about it, and then you're like, holy shit, this season is also stacked.
Yeah.
But season 5 has some all-time bangers.
Yes.
I
had season 5 as my number 1.
Season 5 does have what's it called? Is it the Suits episode?
Yes, it does.
Girls versus Suits.
Yeah.
So it's hard not to put season 5 up there.
Yes. So that's this episode.
That is this episode. So we will be back soon.
We'll be back soon. By the time this gets published, will we have our Thor review out by the time this gets published?
It depends.
Yeah, we're seeing Thor tomorrow night.
Thor tomorrow night. What time are you and Ro leaving on Friday?
It might even still be Saturday. I don't know yet.
Oh, you're not sure?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I mean, if you got time on Friday, we could do it Friday morning.
Sounds good.
So, and then that will probably go up Monday of this week. So we'll talk more about those details in a little bit.
Exactly.
But until next time,
He's Javier.
And he's Thano. And we'll be back with more How I Met Your Mother Summer.
How I Met Your Mother in the summer.
We're almost halfway there.
We're almost halfway there. We have not been living on a prayer.
We have not. All right, bye.
Bye.